What's up, everyone? You are tuning in to the Misfit Athletics Cycle 3 podcast. This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Sharpen the Axe. Sharpen the Axe is releasing the Suffer, Smile, Endure collection very, very soon. Actually, it's released because you're in the future right now. SharpenTheAxeCo.com. Use the code CYCLE3 to get 15% off. We don't normally do this, so it will only last for 1 week. The last time we did the Cycle 2 discount code, we got a bunch of messages after a week. So 1 week. I say no exceptions, but we always make exceptions because we love you guys. Use the code CYCLE3, SharpenTheAxeCo.com. Also at SharpenTheAxeCo.com on the events tab is Misfit Summer Camp. Ooh. When this podcast is released, it will be the week of camp. So if you live near to Maine, to Misfit HQ, you can get signed up. If you live anywhere, you can get signed up. You just have to get your ass here. It's going to be awesome. Cody Mooney, Jess Griffith, Travis Williams, Paige Semenza, Mackenzie O'Reilly will all be here. They will be running camp. It's going to be very exciting. We're going to the beach. We're having lunch served every day, barbecue style. It's going to be a lot of fun. So check that out. Oh, exclusive gear pack head to toe. And all you crazies out there that won't be, you're not going to be able to buy it. There's not going to be no way to buy it. You could buy a camp ticket and we could mail it to you, but that would not be
fiscally responsible.
The most financially responsible situation. Before handing it off to Hunter, just want to remind you guys to make sure to download the Misfit Athletics app for iOS. Android is still in the works. It is coming soon. Hunter, tell me about teammisfit.com.
Yeah, we are live now, test week for the competitor program, and then the GPP program this month is focusing a little bit more on some high skill stuff. We always say the GPP program does not avoid high skill movements, and it doesn't. But this month we're putting a little bit more emphasis on it. I really like this month and the upcoming month for both programs, but GPP especially. So now is an awesome time. Head over to teammisfit.com. There's a ton of free content on there if you're not looking to sign up your affiliate for programming, but if you are, head over there, shoot us a message. We'll even send you the next 2 weeks for free, exactly what everybody else is getting to test it out. Get your gym on board.
And then bringing it back to Misfit Athletics, we do have some remote coaching slots that are now open post games. We ran into a bunch of you guys out in Madison. You wanted to know, what is the real way to go from, hey, I'm kind of on the bubble in these competitions. I want to make the next little leap. I'm kind of stuck in my training. I'm not really sure how to approach my training. You know, how can I work with someone to get better at that? You know, maybe you're an affiliate and you're jumping into open gym and you're not taking classes anymore and you want to know how to make that next leap. Remote coaching is the way to do that. You're looking for someone to help you with your programming, but also talk to you about the sports side of it and the lifestyle part of it, which I think is the biggest and best part of our remote coaching. Is you get someone at Misfit Athletics that's going to help you find out what those little things that you're missing currently in your training to take you to the next level. So head over to MisfitAthletics.com, click on the remote coaching tab, and we'll be in contact soon.
Since he was speed reading there, that is MisfitAthletics.com.
Misfit Athletics.
Fill out the remote coaching application. We'll get right back to you. For anybody that's sort of seen in the past that we only offer lump sum pricing, that has changed. We do have month-to-month pricing, which has made things a little bit easier for people to get started.
And it's cheaper. Just because it's month-to-month, we didn't bump the prices up unless you're paying like 1 month at a time.
Absolutely.
So, more affordable.
So we got the bomb dropped on us during the end of the CrossFit Games that the Open is October 10th.
Hey, it's tomorrow.
God. The Open is very soon. We knew it was going to be in the fall. We had heard it was going to be in October, but we did not know when. So what does that mean for the whole, the people that have been following our website for so long that are so used to this Cycle 3, Cycle 4, into the Open, all that good stuff. We have modified Cycle 3 to essentially serve as Cycle 3 and Cycle 4. We go from test week to 4 weeks of traditional Cycle 3 programming. We're going to have what we're calling a primer week just to make sure that you are really ready to retest and get ready for the Open. And then we are going to jump into the Open cycle. And we're going to run a simulation week this year, the week before the Open, to really make sure people have shifted their mindset. So programming is going to be very similar to what it's going to be for the following 5 weeks. We think 5 weeks. I don't know if they announced that.
They have not, but assuming so.
Well, yeah, they said you can expect 5 weeks.
We can expect 5 weeks. So we're going to make it 6 weeks with that simulation in there just to get everybody kind of ready to go.
That'll also include the adjustment to the training schedule where rest day will come Wednesday.
Correct.
Primer day Thursday. So
yes,
again, if you followed, that will start right after cycle 3 retest.
And we will shoot you a brand spanking new podcast at that point.
Sure will.
To explain all that good stuff.
Yep.
So cycle 3, what's going on in cycle 3? Really important to understand this progression we're trying to make. We're going back into the open. We're preparing for the open. And in a lot of cases, that just means increased reps, increased GPP style programming, shifted over into weightlifting, essentially. So I'm going to go over the strength, the Olympic lifting, and the Metcons right now real quick. The Texas method is back for the squats. I would love to say that I wrote the Texas method.
That'd be a cool thing to
But
say.
we don't take credit for it because we did not write it. Maybe my volume cycle is better for a 1 rep max. In fact, I know it is, but the Texas method for CrossFitters is the creme de la creme.
Yeah.
It does a whole lot for you physically. It does a whole lot for you mentally. It's pretty incredible. And for anyone that doesn't know what it is, within the same week, you will be finding a 5 rep max, and then you'll be doing 5x5 at 90% of that later in the week. And in the next week, when you go to do your 5 rep max again, we would like you to add 5 to 10 pounds. So when you're doing the test and you're doing these things, you just want to keep in mind that we're trying to add 5 to 10 pounds per week. So yes, it is a true 5 rep max, but let's say you hit one and you barely hit it. Do you go to the next one? Probably not, knowing that you're going to get another chance there. And then just sort of that public service announcement that we do every year, that 5x5 at 90 is a true full training piece. Treat it that way.
Yep.
Get warmed up, really be serious about it. Treat the type of focus that you would put into a Metcon into each set, and you will reap the benefits from that. If you are not paying attention for one of those 25 reps, your body is not going to like you very much. And you might not stand up.
I really like this squat cycle too. Not get me wrong. I love the cycle 1 squat, the volume cycle, trying to get that different 1 rep max up as high as you can. It's fun to put a heavy 1 rep max up on Instagram and say, hey, this is what I have now. But if you're looking for the squat cycle that I think translates to the best to your ability to perform multiple reps, do well in open workouts, this to me is the cycle. This is the cycle you do not want to neglect, that you do not want to not have the focus that's necessary to put the effort in to get better, because so many people we see every single year start at like 315 and end the cycle at 375. You're like, holy shit, in 5 weeks I gained 60 pounds on my 5 rep max front squat or back squat. How is that possible? And it's just putting the time and the effort and I think better than time under tension. That's what's great about the Texas method, is that time you're going to spend underneath a heavy barbell.
True.
Question, because we get this very often. The goal is, hey, every week we're going to add a little bit of weight to the 5 rep max, like that 5 to 10 pound range, knowing that your percentage work also goes up.
Yes.
I go into the 5 rep max day and I do not hit a PR kind of as planned for whatever reason, because this is CrossFit. What do you tell that person? Do you redo the same 5x5 weight? Do you go by feel, how it feels, and maybe add 5 pounds to your 5x5?
So it's 5. So it's 5 by 5 at 90% of your 5 rep max. So what that tells us is that we need to use our most recent 5 rep max, and that's a successful 5 rep max.
Okay.
So if you have to go back to the previous week, that's perfectly fine. And maybe you just didn't add a few pounds because you felt like shit, but then you feel good on that 5x5 day. Don't increase the weight.
Move just faster.
Just kick the weight's ass.
Yep.
And move on to the next week and get your confidence back and get your movement back and understand, have that shift in mindset that's like, oh, I can back squat. I had one bad day. It doesn't matter. Moving on from the Texas method, we could literally sit here and talk to you about the Texas method for probably about an hour.
So great.
There's there'd be some Kenny G music on in the back. Like, we have a love affair with the Texas method back squat program. We're moving on to split jerk, and at this time of year, there is a chance that they're going to ask us to do 1 rep max, maybe even shoulder to overhead, but also clean and jerk within the open. We don't do split jerk is one of those movements that does not come up often enough for us to put it in the programming often enough for people to be amazing at it.
Yep.
Right. Some people are more naturally inclined. Some people, are maybe a little bit more athletic. They like the movement. So what we know as coaches from all the years of experience that we have is that the barrier to entry here is figuring out how to we got to start with more reps and lighter weight. Like, we have to. Okay, we know that within Olympic lifting, triple, double, single works really well, but that's once we're really good at it. I would much rather see someone trying to figure out a movement, hammer out, 25 reps over the course of sets and try to figure out their movement. You put the tape on the ground where your feet need to go.
Yeah.
You move fast, that sort of thing. If you figure this movement out, your body is going to play along a lot better under fatigue than if you threw a random weight over your head because you were super pumped up once. So it's skill acquisition. Walk before you run.
Yeah, to me, the split jerk is one of those exercises where you need to spend a good amount of time drilling technique before you even worry about the weight. It's not like a deadlift where you can just bend over and grab the bar and hopefully stand up with it. If you don't start with the basics and really refine that type of stuff, you're going to have that random one day, like you said, where you hit a big weight and then you can never hit any of your percentage work. So what I really like about this cycle is you get a chance to work on more of a moderate weight split jerk, but now you're working on your technique so that when it comes up and when it actually matters and you have to do it for reps, you can actually hit it. What if they decide that that chest to bar snatch ladder is chest to bar and clean and jerk ladder this year and they change it up? Like, you want to be able to repeat that over and over again. Right. And we see so many athletes who just heave the bar and pray they can jump underneath it and catch it.
Yeah, and if we nail down motor recruitment patterns right now, the ability to call on a skill under fatigue is going to be improved much more by sets of 5, sets of 4, that sort of thing. Moving on, we have a non-mandatory day of deadlift. What I can say is this style of deadlift programming works really freaking well.
Yeah, I love the high rep deadlift stuff.
We've got some 3x8s, we've got some 2x15s. We have the sort of rep ranges where we can make the adaptation that carries over to that godforsaken 21, 15, 9 times 2 in the open, right? We need this to be able to carry over. And we have the CNS demand. We're really, crushing our lower half with the Texas method. So we want to make sure that with the deadlift, again, we're bleeding into actual CrossFit because that's our sport. And the more we develop the sport, the more the lines are going to be blurred. It's not going to be about, can you step out onto a platform to do 1 rep max because you had to be one of the 10 fittest people on earth to even get that opportunity this year.
I mean, you watch all these events and you see deadlifts programmed. I mean, how many times has it been programmed for a max lift? And it's not very often. It's mostly, can you move, 50, 60, 70% for tons and tons of reps? What better way than to practice it, multiple times? Because I know a lot of athletes that get hung up. They have the handstand walking capacity. They have the handstand push-up capacity. They can step up on a box and do lunges, but they can't pull the deadlift bar over and over again. And that becomes the barrier to entry that prevents them from moving on in the workout. Like this is a movement while being a lower skill thing, something that you need to put time in to get better at, because unless you can get yourself through that, you don't earn the right to go on into the open workout further. So for a lot of people, this ends up being something that puts up a stop sign where it could be like, all right, just another part of the workout.
Or it's just they don't know how to deadlift. For reps, they don't know how to get that proper setup position, that proper first rep
cycle,
and bringing the bar back to the ground without loading up your quads and low back. And
I mean, what's a better midline stability exercise than 2x15?
Yeah.
Doesn't exist.
Yeah. It's one of those things where we know what the general weaknesses of the community are in our community specifically, and it's being specifically attacked with this.
Oh, yes.
And you know what? There's a pretty good chance that if you don't choose this, you're going to have a nasty Metcon on the other side. And a lot of that can just be, would rather do 2x15 deadlift than X Metcon, right? So that's how we know how we choose. And I don't mean Sherb gets to choose the deadlift. I mean the exact opposite of that.
That's what he meant.
Right. Moving on to Olympic lifting, all of this stuff is very similar. It's about reps now.
Yep.
It's about reps. So we have complexes, we have power clean and power snatch singles, drop and reset. And we have the Olympic weightlifting that we've had in the past with the monostructural work mixed in. So your rest and your ability to flush within the actual piece is all going to be based on that. So you do something like 4x5 squat clean with a 600-meter jog in between. And it's the idea of both training your mind to be able to move with the breathing kind of being there, but also this idea of aerobic capacity where if we do something a little bit easier with a higher, repetition rate, whether it's stroke rate, whether it's cadence in your run, that we can flush out waste. So we're trying to both train the body and train the mind to understand how we can continue to cycle a barbell and then comfortably move on to something else.
Yeah. I think it's important to be able to have that confidence to come. This should not be, your 5 squat snatches, the 600 meter jog, and then, rest a minute while you chalk up. The idea is that this is kind of one continuous piece,
right?
Gaining the confidence to come in off of what should be a pretty low to moderate pace monostructural piece, but get your hands right on the bar. Again, it's not like, don't think of it as for time. It's still what we would probably classify as like strength, but having the confidence to put your hands on the bar at a percentage that's relative to you rather than
it's very similar. It's very similar to how we think about, the fasted cardio that we give a lot of our remote athletes. We can always develop that linear progression model where we know that if I just did squat cleans or I just did squat snatch, what's my comfortable pace in a run, a row, or a bike, or a ski? We just want it to continue to be 1 second faster. The pacing just to be a little bit faster, or maybe it's the same pace and we're super comfortable. Whereas a week before it was like, damn, I can't even shuffle my feet after those squat cleans. If we have that mindset, we can use longer, slower stuff to improve. And again, it'll help both mentally and physically. So
I just look at this piece and you watch some of the best in the game and you go, how did they get to the ability to, they can just do 225 squat cleans over and over and over again? And it's because they put themselves in situations where they do stuff like this, where it's, hey, I'm going to do 3 sets of 10 squat cleans, or I'm going to do 3 sets of 5 squat cleans. And I want to see if I can just drop the bar and grab it again, drop the bar and grab it again. And then you have something like pennies that comes back up again, and you're able to move faster in that workout just because you've practiced the skill of dropping the bar and knowing exactly how to reset your body with little rest in between. And, if you're someone that's not quite there where you can really cycle a barbell well, like Hunter said, you take the jogs really easy, but then you can start to incrementally increase your pacing to figure out what is that threshold.
Just like pennies.
And I think a lot of people truly don't know enough about themselves, because a lot of us fall into one of two camps. We either move kind of slow and steady the whole time, or we sprint, rest, where this is more of like, can you be consistent the whole time? And that's for a lot of my athletes where I have them focus in this cycle. When I see this type of lifting, it's like, I want you to be consistent from round 1 to round 2 to round 3 to round 4, because that shows me that you've learned something about your own pacing in this workout.
Right. So the complexes, super happy to let you know that you will be doing multiple complexes in a row, doubles and triples and all that good stuff of complexes. And then for anyone that's new to the program, what I meant by the power cleans and power snatch singles for time is you're going to get a percentage, but you're going to get like a 90-second window to drop and reset and move through, just like you would in one of those, moderate to heavy Metcons, that skill of dropping the bar and getting right back to it, that sort of thing. But knowing in the back of your head, nothing is coming after this other than a 2 minute and 30-second rest period, right? So you find out what you're capable of, and then you overreach a little bit. And then when the open comes around, you know what you're capable of, and probably it's a lot more than you thought prior to cycle 3. Last but obviously not least, Metcons are 4 days a week mandatory. And to be perfectly honest, it's sort of like 5 days a week mandatory. Sherb's going to explain the medleys here in a few minutes, the kind of new addition to the programming. But you've got to do Metcons because that's our sport, right? That's where we're at.
What?
And we always try to
CrossFit. See you later.
Yeah, exactly. It's always weird to explain this category because it's like, this is our sport. This is what we train for. But obviously within the Metcons, we're always after some sort of specific stimulus. The stuff is very doable so that we can go really hard. The stuff is more challenging so that we're testing muscle endurance and we're trying to figure out strategy in a workout, all that good stuff. There is kind of a strongman-esque focus on a lot of the Friday, a lot of those workouts there. Because the medley's coming up, you're going to be doing stuff like yoke carries, sumo deadlifts, sandbag carries, things of that nature. So that's sort of the twist that you'll have there. So that sort of lays out sort of that traditional CrossFit style programming. Now we move into, Sherb's going to talk a little bit about the interval and bitch work, which is as we want it to, starting to kind of come together and be one and the same thing.
So we spent the entire year up to this point kind of separating these things out for the most part. I mean, outside of some Metcons, you don't really see these things together, the bitch work and like either barbell cycling or gymnastics. You now have a little bit of a blend in cycle 3 because like you said, not very often we get tested on our 10 by 200 meter row in the open. Just doesn't happen. So you're going to see that there's going to be a very specific outline.
You imagine if there was a 2K row in the open?
Oh my God.
God, fucking,
Dave.
I'd quit.
What could you pull? What could you pull in the open?
730.
What a place that would be.
That would be
659.9.
Someone's gonna get like a row of 630 and get 10,000 points.
that would be so bad.
Please
don't do that.
So, anyways, again, away from the 2K and the open, day one, you're gonna be looking at really high intensity for the intervals and bench work. You're gonna be looking at sprints, right? You're gonna be alternating between different modalities, but essentially the whole idea here is to really rev that engine up super, super high. At this point, you've already done, your Metcon, you've done potentially some Olympic lifting. We're going to end the day for a lot of you with some really high intensity sprint workouts, excuse me.
I wish that was the only kind of bitch work.
That was the only kind. Well, it's kind of a gift and a curse, right? If it was like one or two of them, yes.
Yeah.
If there are 3 or 4 or 5, the more, the less fun it is.
Not when you train 3 days a week. It's not that bad.
True.
Keep going.
Moving on to day 2, we're still looking in the shorter time domain, but we're now lengthening out a little bit longer. We're still in that like anaerobic feel. Over the course of many intervals, you'll start to get some aerobic in there, but a lot of it's still like figuring out what is like your 80 to 90% repeatability on pacing.
The like conscious thought, muscle endurance kind of stuff.
Yeah, where you're like
the other one, you can close your eyes and.
Like for this one, you could sell out, but what would happen for the rest of your intervals?
Right.
Like this is more like, all right, I got to be a little bit smarter here because I'm going to be doing, 6, 8, 10 intervals. Right. And if I sell out on one.
Still technically selling out if over the course of 5 rounds of something, you do the best that you can.
Yeah, it's one of those ones where like the additive effect happens where the first few rounds, you're like, oh, that's not so bad. And you get like a few more and you're like, actually, this is horrible and I don't want to keep doing this, but I know that I'm getting a lot from it.
Yep.
Moving on to the rest of the week, we're going to start blending things a little bit more. Those first 2 days are a little bit more, monostructural. They're not really mixing things, but the rest of the week is going to be mixing it. So you have your day 3, you're looking at CrossFit intervals, a lot like you just explained. CrossFit is, Metcons over and over again. This is essentially a Metcon for a, 2 to 7 minute window with some rest built in. The idea here is, you get a chance to look at how you did your first round, reevaluate, make a strategy to excel in your second round. And then you have this information we talk about in training all the time. You have this information going forward. So if bikes come up with muscle ups, how to approach it. If it's toes to bar with rowing, how to approach it. But you have those combinations of movements. And we're looking for basically the same thing through day 3 and day 4. They're very, very similar. You're looking at 2 to 3 elements. And I think if you look a little bit at day 4, it skews a little bit more towards barbell cycling, which is, again, something we really want to try to focus on this time of year because where we see a lot of athletes get hung up is the ability to stay moving on a barbell. They're good on a rower, good on burpees, but you ask them to move a barbell under fatigue and it's like 2 or 3 fast reps and you bend over and you rest. So looking to have a little bit of that in cycle 3 and day 4. Last but not least, something brand new to this year, brand new to this cycle is the Misfit Medley. I like to think of this as, hey, I have an hour to go train and I want to do one thing really, really hard. And maybe you're someone in that book where like, hey, I don't have 2 or 3 hours to train, but I love doing the Misfit stuff. The Misfit Medley is going to be like your, best case scenario, dream scenario.
It's going to be the
for
Misfit WOD on day 5. So yes. Absolutely everybody's going to have access to this for free.
Yes.
And what's great about that is you can look at it and say like, this is a true training day.
That's my whole training day.
That's my whole training day.
Session.
And you know what? Everyone else, you do have more stuff, but whether that makes sense or not is going to be person to person.
And the way I look at this is if you are that person, it's like, hey, I got 1 hour to train and you want to get the best bang for your buck and you're like, all right, I'm doing Misfit WOD. You're going to have essentially almost all 3 elements of CrossFit all put together in one way or another on that medley day. You're looking at, going to have, 21, 15, 9, a short rest, a 2K row, short rest, final 1 max overhead squat, something along those lines. A way to kind of blend a full day of training into one long, steady piece. The way I like to look at this thing is what is your, 80 to 90% able to go really, really hard, take a very short rest, and then try to kick it back up into gear, which is a skill a lot of athletes, a lot of things have been testing in the open in the past is like, hey, you have a 4-minute window. If you finish a little bit early, you get a tiny bit of rest and then you got to do it all over again. And sometimes it's the same movement, sometimes it's different, which is exactly what the Misfit Medley is all about, is getting that experience of going from one style of workout into another style of workout or time domain, which I think is really cool.
And then we won't stop talking about this, but there's just so much information in our training about ourselves. And, a lot of the questions you guys send us, we love hearing from you, but a lot of them you have to be able to answer yourself, right? You're the only one with that information.
Yeah.
And it's tragic that some people work so hard and don't think about their training afterwards. And this provides a whole new insight into the style of workouts where maybe they ask for that 21, 15, 9 twice again. this year, or it's a 1 rep max lift into a Metcon, or a Metcon into a 1 rep max lift, or, who's to say that they can't just give you 2 completely different workouts and, put 5 minutes in between? Who's to say that when you go to Wadapalooza or, West Coast, any of these, sanctionals now, that your turnaround time isn't super fast? So like knowing how things interact with each other and how you're affected by certain movements for other movements or certain energy systems for other energy systems is really important, because you're not really going to be able to answer those questions without those.
And I really like it too, the fact that sometimes it goes from lift to Metcon back to lift, and sometimes it's going to go Metcon, lift, Metcon. Like, you need to know both of those things. People are like, how safe is it to find a 1 rep max snatch after a workout? Well, our sport requires us to be able to do that. So you have to know.
People PR all the time.
You have to, you have to
that's
know
what I was
these
gonna
things.
say. Like, how often do you see how many people
We received
PR
hate
their,
mail in the past about this. So
yeah, like
I'm such a big fan of figuring out what you're capable of under fatigue, and that's really the name of the game here. And I think that's what's really cool about this, is we're essentially putting you on a nice long clock and saying, hey, all right, this is a chance for you to learn something about your training, something you can take home into the open, because it feels, to me, I look at all these workouts, I'm like, yeah, I could see 2 out of 3 of those being one of the workouts in the open super easy. Like, it just looks exactly like an open workout to me. So I think it lines up perfectly, and it's going to end up rounding out your week every single week with a nice long little march through what we think is probably the best combination of movements for a, cap off a week.
Last but not least, we have extras.
Yeah, so 5 days they'll be programmed. Only 3 of them are mandatory, and I'm actually going to talk a little bit more about the 2 optional days, but the 3 mandatory, pretty straightforward, between a mix between high skilled gymnastics work, like the legless rope climb, muscle up +1, that sort of thing. Another day you'll have your progressively longer monostructural stuff. That's still, I think, super important to continue to progress through as the open gets closer and closer. So you'll go from 20 to 40 minutes just on a machine, stare at a monitor, get comfortable, kind of being uncomfortable for that duration of time. And then day 5, we do have swimming mixed in there. So coincides with the medley? Yeah. So on the medley days, for those of you who maybe aren't super competitive, it might be acceptable to kind of skip the swimming stuff or replace it with one of the other pieces. But I think for those of you who are looking to push into the sanctional realm or really make a push for qualification, like, you got to figure out how to get to the pool.
Yeah, 100%.
And swim. So
one quick note on the swimming: if you can learn to reach and breathe and just be comfortable with your head staying underwater, you're ahead of so many other people. It's not at first about getting into the pool and worrying about your splits. It's about getting into a pool, maybe a lake, maybe even the ocean, and really thinking about, can I reach? Can I breathe? Can I get that freestyle head in the water, not legs straight down, head pointing straight up, that sort of feel. If you can learn how to do that, you're going to be a lot better than someone who thinks they're improving by thrashing in a pool, completely exclusively. So
yeah, you need to be able to, you need to learn how to swim, like, not
freestyle, smooth, like that sort of thing.
Also, I would say it's valuable to learn different strokes as well. Especially for a longer swim, learning how to do something efficiently like a side stroke or a backstroke, and experimenting with that sort of stuff is super important.
But that goes away as you become more and more
the
developed.
Baseline is you need to learn how to move through water,
right,
with as little resistance as possible.
Right, because we worked on getting Jess Griffith back in the pool, and she was able to swim that entire swim freestyle the entire time and go through. And when you don't switch styles a bunch, I think that the anxiety and the stress that comes with swimming changes quite a bit. So if you're able to freestyle that whole thing, if you're able to remain calm and reach and breathe, then you're, again, just completely changing, the what it takes to actually do it, like the metabolic demand, but also, like, people are nervous in the water.
Yeah.
So like being comfortable with that, swimming a little bit longer, spending time in the pool, just figuring out the freestyle is going to help you so much.
To me, this reminds me so much of the conversation. You have athletes who want to understand how to get better at some of the endurance type of pieces, and they don't understand that you have to learn how to run at a 8:45 9-minute mile for a 10K to start, so that you understand how to use your body aerobically and warm up and have good technique so you don't feel beat up. To me, that's the same exact thing you're looking for the pool. Like, yeah, you're going to see some metcons in the swimming work, but if you're someone that's really bad at swimming, like, it might be fun to participate in some of those metcons. Maybe you spend the time just doing the distance in freestyle.
Maybe just get to the pool once a week, and work
exactly,
on that.
and just practice a skill. Like, yeah, it's fun to participate in some of the metcons, but a lot of times, like, you do yourself a disservice by putting yourself in this fatigue state and then trying to practice a skill. We all know how hard it is to sprint on a bike and then do muscle ups. It's kind of the same thing, but now you're talking about in the pool. You do your push-ups, they cook your shoulders. Now you can't swim correctly. So just make sure that you have intent. I think the biggest message we try to always give in these podcasts, that training should be done with intent. And just because something new is out there and dangling in front of you, like, oh, great, I could do something new. Like, make it about getting better at what's in the workout rather than just trying to put your thing on Instagram or compare with somebody else. Because to me, I can see someone being like, yeah, I could hammer out push-ups so I could beat so-and-so at a swimming workout, but did you get better at swimming, which is really the intent here.
Right.
Yeah, so that's the mandatory stuff. The two optional days that I want to kind of hit on is day 1 and day 2. They're pretty straightforward, but I think they're really important going into the open. One is essentially a high volume gymnastics work. For example, 50 muscle ups for time. I think we're getting to the point where like 40, 50 muscle ups for time is the new 30 muscle ups for time.
Absolutely.
As far as like a volume test goes. And second is being able to have that kind of stamina for when 105 chest to bar pull-ups come up in the open again. We see there seems to always be that one test in the open where it's like, I don't train this volume regularly. There is still a place for the occasional like high volume beat down workout. And I think you can really train that without kind of as much of the metabolic or CNS demand by doing pieces like this. So they are optional, but I think they're super valuable. And then the other day 2, so you'll basically get to choose between the deadlift work that we talked about and the extra. And it's basically like a static gymnastic kind of day while you're breathing hard. I think it's not something that I think it would be difficult to test in the open, but it's super valuable to be able to control your body.
Developed muscle endurance.
Yeah. It's just developing that stamina. The holding a position, I think, translates really well to something like 19.3, where you were holding a dumbbell overhead, then you were pressing yourself upside down, and then you were walking on your hands upside down. And it's just developing that time under tension, and also just trying to push yourself a little bit longer. Most people can hold a plank a lot longer than you think you can if you can kind of get over that mental hump.
Right.
You can sit in a wall sit a lot longer than you think you can if you can get over that initial kind of
the wall sit. The leg stuff is weird because it feels very similar at the beginning to the end. So once you realize like this is just what it's going to feel like.
This is really uncomfortable, but it's not any more uncomfortable later on. So otherwise it's fairly straightforward extra pieces. The two optional pieces kind of look at the training day, know what you need to work on, but there's a lot of value to be taken from those two, the high volume gymnastics and the static stuff.
The only thing I wanted to add to your comment about the day 1 gymnastic stuff is that you're right. It is humongous sets, and something we always preach all the time is intensity. Do not forget that intensity can be purposeful practice as well, not just high heart rate. So like someone could see that 50 muscle ups and go, I can't do more than 5 at a time. Should I be doing this? Should I just skip it or should I scale it? And again, part of that is knowing you as the athlete, but a lot of times to develop these capacities you don't currently have, you need to spend time under tension or just time practicing. So the way I look at like just week 1, for example, being 50 muscle ups, like say you're an athlete that has 30 muscles for time and you can do it in it's under 7 minutes, you probably are appropriate for 50 muscle ups for time. If you look at that and you're like, that would take me 20 minutes to do 30 muscle ups for time, probably not 50, but there's still value in practicing a number that is some reduced volume of that same exact
something
test.
between 20 and 30.
So I just say, you look at these things, do not forget that that intensity can be brought to you by, in purposeful practice, not just high heart rate. And I think that these gymnastics tests on day one, and maybe not so much on day two, but day one for sure, can be done, even if you can't do them in, 50 muscle-ups in 4 sets or whatever. I don't know who can, but.
Whoa. That'd be crazy.
50 in 4 sets?
No.
Yeah.
I mean, how much rest is in between?
Tag me. Yeah. One day.
A day in between.
All right. Hatchet Crew. As you know, we are all huge fans of the Hatchet program. We think that the majority of the people, that are pursuing kind of that ramp up to being a CrossFit Games athlete, part of your journey is following something like Hatchet. Hatchet is very straightforward. We're in the we mean business, no nonsense kind of area of the season. So that means you're going to lift every day, you're going to Metcon every day, and you're going to have an interval every day. And we've sort of covered the styles that you can see in cycle 3, but it's important to understand, I'm looking at these 3 pieces every day. I got to be mindful of what order I do them in. This Metcon's going to crush me. Or I love I love this lift, so I could do it last, that sort of thing. So just be mindful of all that stuff and understand the difference between, the Metcon is obviously supposed to be done with intensity. It's we have the time caps built in there to make sure that everything makes sense. And then the intervals are there so that you can take a chance every once in a while. You can see, can I really do the 185 front squat or whatever it is? Can I push harder on the bike and still be able to do this? And then after a 90-second rest, go for it. So we've got all 3 styles in there. If you follow this to a T and don't skip the long stuff and don't skip certain things that you hate and scale appropriately, man, it's a really, really, really good program.
Yeah, and I previously the lifting has been maybe a little bit sporadic with the purpose of kind of giving you exposure to a lot of different things, and that's still super valuable, but you will be on the full Texas method, so you will get the chance to do 5 rep max one day, 5x5 the other day, and then the complexes as well. So you will still get that exposure every week on a fairly consistent, predictable basis. But I still think 90+% of people are probably in the Hatchet range.
Right. And what I think it's important to say that we're not putting you in that box as an athlete.
No, for sure.
We're putting you on a timeline for, what it takes to become a CrossFit Games athlete. We can tell you that we coach a lot of CrossFit Games athletes, and not all of them are obsessed with volume. In fact, once they pass into the, I've been doing this for 4 or 5 years, almost none of them are obsessed with volume anymore. Those days are kind of gone a little bit. You get rid of that, because Travis used to be a volume monster. Now he likes to take a week off every month.
How little can I do and still be a CrossFit Games athlete?
Right. And there's nothing wrong with that, because then you become more focused and you don't feel like there are all these throwaway pieces in your training. But yeah, that is cycle 3. We got the information about the Open, and we adjusted our strategy to make sure that you will be ready for the Open. We have some pretty awesome, cool plans for after the Open, but we'll wait to drop all of that stuff. Sharpentheaxeco.com, use the code cycle3 to save 15%. And if you are looking for the Unprepared or the Misfit Project podcast, you are in the right place. This is just different. So Misfit Podcast is where all that stuff's going to live.
Spotify, SoundCloud, or where? SherbCloud.
You don't want to go in that cloud.
It's a bad cloud.
It is a bad cloud. We can confirm.
Rain cloud.
I think we did it.
Did it. Till next time, guys.
Good luck.
Ya.